Hello, my name is Abby Brew, and I was sick the day of that I was scheduled to go for the presentations that whole last week, so I figured that I would make a video and send you my slides and kind of give you an idea of how it would be like. So my title is Homeschooling and Public Education Efficiency in Social and Academic Standards. So basically that was a really academic and long-winded title to say that I wanted to look at the public school and the homeschool schoolers and look at different aspects of them and kind of see the efficiency of either of the two in these different areas that I chose. So first I found out that there's a bunch of different ways to approach homeschooling. There's school at home, relaxed, which is also known as electric, and unschooling. So school at home, what this looks like is guardians, parents, they buy curriculum in a bulk, and it all comes from the same from the same company, and they base their lessons and their tests and their assessments based off of what this bulk curriculum gives them. So relaxed or electric looks like parents, teachers purchasing some curriculum and then have more of a natural learning approach to different subjects. So what usually this looks like is for the math, the reading subjects, they buy curriculum, and then for the others like arts and science, they take more of a natural learning approach. Unschooling is the last one of these different approaches to homeschooling, and unschooling looks like this natural approach to all of the subjects, which yes, they get to experience the world firsthand, but without that you don't get the consistency and the curriculum, subject areas, goals per grade, and that is not, if you want them to be highly educated, that's not the best way to go about it, in my personal opinion. Moving on, there's different public ways to approach public schooling, and that is traditional public school, which most of us are familiar with. There's charter and magnet. So a traditional school is set up by a district and location. I myself went through public school throughout the whole my whole education until, of course, coming here. A charter school looks like a school with that has received a grant, and within this grant they are required to meet certain expectations. A magnet school is similar, but their main focus is more so incorporating a bunch of different cultures in their school, and usually they have a focused subject or like a talent. It could be like a music school or an arts science school, but they are very much gifted in this one area, and they want to develop that more within their students. So how did I go about comparing public schooling and homeschooling? Well, I looked at 3 different areas that I've seen within my own schooling, and I've seen friends that were homeschooling and how that affected them. I looked at underage drinking and drug use, social development and maturity, and college readiness. So let's look into underage drinking and drug use. In the homeschooled life aspect, it was the result of increased bonding and conventional others really helped them stay away from that, and that's what my research showed. Because a lot of homeschooled families and co-ops are, they relate to a church, or they are sponsored by a church. They find themselves in a lot of communal activities within the church. and my research said that there was a lot of newfound self-control and religious influence and increased parent involvement in the homeschoolers, and because of this they were less likely to partake in such actions as public schoolers were. So within the public schoolers, I was wondering why do they have more of a chance of participating in such actions. And one of my sources said that the social learning theory and the social bonding theory really play into this topic. And the social learning theory is basically saying that these activities are learned. So if I never experience any of my peers drinking or using drugs, then I am less likely to fall into such habits. But if I had friends or family members or whatever that participated in such actions, I would be more likely to participate as well. And the social bonding theory, it basically means the opposite, so like less likely to happen if your peers aren't doing it. So also I noticed that the exposure rate of underage drinking and drug usage is way higher, the exposure rate of public schoolers than it is to their homeschooled peers. They're more exposed to it, therefore they're more likely to partake in such actions. And because these high schoolers are underage, this means that they have this provided to them in some way. Many times this is a guardian or older siblings that are able to give such things to them. And a lot of times in my own personal walk in a public school, I have heard of a lot of kids going out and finding ways to get a fake ID, and that's how they get it for themselves. So moving on to social development, within the homeschoolers, there is definitely a stereotype, seeing as I hear a lot from some of my homeschool friends back at home that people think that they can't handle themselves in social interactions, or that they are not socially mature, but this is just not accurate at all. According to Ray, he says that homeschoolers are socially mature at least as well, and they are often react better than public schoolers do, which kind of took me by surprise, honestly. I read this one article that there was a case study, and both homeschoolers and public schoolers took this evaluation test, and it tested in areas of self-control, empathy, cooperation, and assertiveness. And there was a lot of stuff I found from that article. I could have just written my paper over that article, but basically the overall end result of that was homeschoolers tested higher in all of them, but the public schoolers were not that far behind. So interesting. Within public school students, what my research found in my research was there's more students have more time with students, whereas homeschoolers have more time with their teacher. And so within the public school, the student to teacher interaction is way less, and they have less one-on-one time, which within homeschooling, that's basically the type of instruction they have received, which is interesting, and that definitely plays into their social development. Moving on to college readiness, homeschoolers definitely received higher scores within the SAT and ACT, which I found was really interesting. Within homeschooling, there is direct individual instruction at all times, and so a child, if they are being homeschooled correctly, not necessarily within the unschooling approach, but more like a relaxed or traditional. They are receiving that really great instruction from teachers at all times. And this is one thing I found that was really interesting to me. My research said they are used to self-motivation and time management, which I guess I wouldn't really think of being in the public school, but I thought that was really interesting. One thing I saw within public schools in relation to college readiness was that not every student will attend college, but all public schools should present a track in which they have the ability and the opportunity, if they wanted to choose to go to college, that they were set up for success. One thing that plays into public schoolers' students is that they have a hard time with illegitimacy, home life. There's a lot more bullying that goes on in public schools, and those can be really hard things that a student and child could go through, and can really almost set back an education. Self-motivation is a really big thing in public schools. Like, if a student is not motivated to learn, then a teacher won't be able to motivate them. They can only present the curriculum and the subjects, but it's a self-battle that a student must decide, oh, I do want to learn today. And also, peers doing outside negative actions can cloud judgment within the public school students. So, in conclusion, which schooling, if we have public school and homeschooling, which schooling is a better option for students? My answer would have to be inconclusive, because each student, it depends on the situation, and it's extremely situational. And if you're looking into where to place your own children, or looking for other reasons, I would just encourage you guys to look at do your own research and really look into the schools that's around you, and look at some pros and cons and do your own research, because there's perks and downfalls of both, but in the end you gotta have to find what suits your situation best and what's going to be best for you. So thank you for listening.